How you doing, you crazy kids? You're all having a good one? I certainly hope so. I am. I'm in a really good mood because I'm waiting for a delivery. There's a package being delivered that I'm very, very excited about. And I'm probably going to do an unboxing video of. In fact, it's likely that the unboxing video is going to go up before this World of Warships video, in which case I've already spoiled the surprise and you all already know what I'm talking about, assuming you bothered to watch it. If not, ha ha. Anyway, howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. I knew I was forgetting something. Oh, I should probably mention, if you're thinking, what unboxing video? I haven't seen it. It's going to go up on the Old Man Jingles or Home with the Gnome channel because it's just kind of more appropriate there. But anyway, World of Warships. This is... I'm sorry, I love his name. This is Game is Rigged. In the premium Tier 9 US Navy battle cruiser. Yes, it's a battle cruiser. Get over it, America. The USS Alaska. The very popular ship. And for good reason. It's a very good ship. Although cruisers in general, even battle cruisers like the Alaska, have been having a bit of a rough time since the introduction of the commander skill rework and the popularity, with battleships at least, of the Deadeye skill. The skill that, for a mere 10 skill point investment, can turn ships armed with shotguns like the Grosser Kurfürst into ships armed with laser-guided railguns, providing there are no spotted enemy ships within their surface detection range. And that's a bit of a problem for a cruiser, even a battle cruiser like the Alaska, because ships armed with 406mm guns or higher, so pretty much almost every single one of the tier 8 to 10 battleships that she is going to face, and even some of the tier 7s like the Nagato, can overmatch her bow and stern. Traditionally, the defence against this in a cruiser has either been to hide behind an island, which still works, but the Alaska is kind of big, so it needs to be a pretty big island, or stay at range, in which case you're just playing into the hands of the Deadeye battleships. That being the case, the only two practical alternatives are to stay mobile, but they're going to hit you eventually, and the Alaska is a pretty big target, and it's not that fast with a top speed of 33 knots, and it has a pretty big 850 metre turning circle. Failing that, you can always just cross your fingers and hope they shoot at someone else instead. And I'm kind of laughing about that, but you'd be surprised. The simple art of just making sure that there's always a better target than you for somebody to shoot at can be surprisingly effective. If you're not convinced, just ask yourself the question, what's the usual fate of a cruiser when it's the first one spotted at the beginning of a battle? Like, for example, the Ibuki over here, who's sailing in open water with his guns firing broadside on to an Iowa, Jean Bart, Lion, and Alaska. Cruisers, stop making yourselves inviting targets. You could argue that Game is Rigged is doing almost the same thing over here on the eastern flank, but he's not sailing broadside on to anybody shooting at him, although the people who are shooting at him now appear to be the pair of enemy Iowas over there, and that's risky, because while you can tank a surprising amount of armour piercing in an Alaska if you were angled, which Game is Rigged is, and the Ibuki wasn't, they're still armed with 406mm guns, and they can completely overmatch his bow and stern armour. And the further forward he goes, the more of a broadside he is going to be giving to those enemy ships. And you definitely don't want to be the furthest forward ship in a cruiser if you've got battleships shooting at you. You see, he has a couple of problems here. If he moves any further forward, then those battleships won't get the advantage of the Deadeye skill. But then he'll be too close to be able to successfully outmaneuver any shots that they fire at him. He just won't have the time, because he's closer. If he backs off, they continue to get the advantage of the Deadeye skill. Those were some very nice torpedoes from the Fletcher, by the way. And of course, if he turns around to disengage, he's going to end up giving broadside to all of those enemy ships. And that would probably be fatal. If he's hoping that he's going to get any assistance other than long-range gunfire from the Lion and the Georgia behind him, he's well, he's probably best advised to not hold his breath waiting for it, because they're not going to come up to tank, because then they don't get the advantage of their Deadeye skill. Yes, I'm afraid the days when cruisers would follow the battleships into the fray and back them up are long, long gone. Now the battleships just kind of sit there looking at the cruisers saying, well, go on then, what are you waiting for? To which the cruisers reply, well, I'm waiting for you, actually. To which the battleships reply, hell no, I'm not moving forward, then I'll be less accurate. And you can't really blame them. I mean, that's just the way the game works now. It's a very interesting time to be a cruiser. This battle was actually recorded when the commander skill rework was just a day or two old, so there are actually quite a few cruisers in this battle. That has not been the case lately, however. I think the cruisers are wising up and realising that it's far better to play battleships or destroyers. In a lot of the battles that I've been seeing lately, there have been 2, maybe 3 cruisers on each team. It's almost as if all the cruiser captains have been saying, nope, that's it, I'm out. I'll be back when things are considerably less stupid than they currently are. Just as 2 examples of how pants-on-head stupid this really, really is. If you're in a battleship that has the Deadeye skill, you do not want to see any enemy destroyers within your surface detection range, because then you lose the Deadeye skill. You would much rather they stayed undetected than were spotted so that people could shoot at them. We now have a situation where it's better for a battleship to be risking undetected destroyers launching torpedoes at them than it is for that destroyer to have its position revealed. We're also now in a position, and I don't actually have any figures obviously to back this up, although I strongly suspect it is the case because I've been seeing a lot more Shimikazes than normal. We're also in a position where it's now better for a Shimikaze to use the 20-kilometer range torpedoes. You know, the ones that only noobs use. You know, the really bad ones, the Type 93s, the ones that do the least damage, that are the slowest, and can be spotted from the furthest away, because if the battleships are all on the other end of the map, you need a torpedo with a bit of range to hit them. This is fine. Anyway. Oh, that Brindisi is running out of options. He's hit the map border, so he's either going to slow to a stop, because he's hit the map border, or he's going to have to turn to give broadside. And he has turned to give broadside. Fortunately for him, he only eats the one citadel because Game is Rigged miscalculated how much he'd slowed down by. But I don't think he's going to make that miscalculation twice, although he's taken a lot of damage from the Brindisi's SAP. Yep, there he goes. Right. The team are losing horribly, of course. Although they do have 2 of the caps. But that Brindisi was only the 3rd enemy ship to go down, and Game is Rigged's team have lost 6 of their own. Unsurprisingly, half of those losses have been cruisers. Of the 5 that started, only 2 remain. Although, to be fair, 4 cruisers in total have been lost on both teams and 4 battleships. It's only really the destroyers that seem to be having fun. And only then because there's no fun police in play. Brindisi torpedoes disappearing down the starboard side. Oh, that's a lot of broadside you're given to an awful lot of enemy ships, who, by the way, have completely dominated the northern end of the map and are now sweeping south into the central cap. And there's not a lot there to stop them. This must be a bit of a panic moment for the Georgia and the Lion, who've been following Game is Rigged from a safe distance of 4 or 5 kilometres, as they've now found themselves closer to a whole bunch of enemy ships than he is. However will they react? Well, hopefully they'll help finish that Iowa off, so they're not caught in a crossfire as they turn to engage the enemy Juggernaut fleet sailing down from the northwestern side of the map, which consists of 8 of the 9 members of the enemy team, with the exception of 1 Alaska, who's determined to finish off an Izumo, and has finished off the Izumo, before he managed to escape through the map border and onto the Two Brothers map. Iowa still stubbornly refusing to go down, Lion and the Georgia still stubbornly refusing to shoot at him, so I guess Game is Rigged is going to have to finish him, which shouldn't take too many more hits, providing these ones are... they're not on target. Oh, great. Well, he's probably going to burn to death. There we go. Cool ships don't look at explosions anymore. Oh, what's going on here? So many broadsides, so little time. High explosive was loaded, so shots out at the Iowa. But look at the target that Riga is given. Now, instead of reloading halfway through the high explosive reload, he waits for it to finish fully loading, so he can take advantage of his expert loader skill, and does switch to the armor piercing in order to shoot at that enemy cruiser. This is really going to hurt. I mean, he's angling against the Georgia and the Lion, but he's given a nice big fat juicy broadside to game his rigged in the Alaska. And that was a paddling. Not, unfortunately, a paddling of epic proportions. It was only 2 citadels, but it was a paddling nonetheless. And he's also managed to knock the Riga's engine out. And because he's not a destroyer, he's unlikely to have the last stand skill, or whatever it's called these days, if cruisers even have access to it. And with his engines out, he slowed down unexpectedly. I'm pretty sure Game is Rigged didn't realise he'd actually knocked his engine out, and so the follow-up salvo missed completely. Looks like he's used his repair, so the engines are coming back up, but he is still pretty slow. Unfortunately, that's just one superstructure hit. Thinks about shooting at the Iowa, but he's almost certainly, yep, going to go down to the combined fire of the rest of the team. Which means the Riga just ran out of friends, and is probably very anxious to be somewhere else. Unfortunately, he's in secondary battery range of the Georgia by the looks of things. And the Georgia is a very, very fast battleship, so it's extremely unlikely that the Riga is going to escape from here alive, although he might survive for longer than you'd expect, because of course the Georgia and the Lion now no longer have the Deadeye skill active, because the Riga is so close. Just for the lols, watch how long it takes these two to finish that Riga off without the Deadeye skill active. And to be completely fair, I think the Georgia is now focusing on other targets, like that big fat juicy stationary Jean Bart over there, and letting his secondaries continue to work the Riga over. But the Lion is still shooting at the Riga and has finally managed to sink him. Sadly, the Georgia is desperately trying to get out of the barrage of high explosive being rained down on him from the pair of enemy Alaskas over there. He'd turned south to try to get into cover behind that island, and, well, day late and a dollar short. The Jean Bart, for some strange reason, is still just sitting there. And of course, because there are no longer any enemy ships visible within the Lion's surface detection range, suddenly his shots start going where he's aiming them, and the Jean Bart goes down. But, well, stationary, broadside on, in open water, the Jean Bart wasn't exactly making things difficult, was he? Oh, that's bad news. It's bad news for the Lion. Enemy destroyer's been spotted. Now his guns are going to be inaccurate again. Somebody better kill them quick. 2 of them. High explosive loading, hydro active, deep water torpedoes spotted, hands to panic stations, start slowing, turning, trying to get the nose in, make that torpedo overshoot, but they all run out of steam anyway. To be honest, I think he reacted in time. He would have been okay anyway. Be real nice if they could kill that Chung Mu though. Not just because, you know, it's an enemy ship that needs to be sunk, because the Lion needs his Deadeye buff back again. Well, there he is. Still has almost all of his health. It's going to be bad news for the... oh, shit. Okay, what would have been very bad news for the Rune over there is now very bad news for the Lion. Because those torpedoes almost certainly cause flooding, and the Rune has just set him on fire.
The enemy is about to win.
Which means if he doesn't have damage control ready to go, or he's too slow hitting the key, he's screwed. And it was in fact the flooding from the Chung Mu that got him, so that's a flesh wound award for the Chung Mu. And suddenly the game is rigged. Has kind of run out of friends. The friendly Fletcher, who has had a good game, is way too far away to help him. The Brindisi is very wisely staying as far away as possible, and is given a little bit of semi-armour piercing fire support against these 2 enemy Alaskas and the Rune. That Alaska definitely needs to die. High explosive loaded. There's a double fire set. That's got to be a kill. Nope, he's damage controlled it. But the Brindisi gets him. Good. Here's the thing about playing the Alaska when you're getting shot at by people firing high explosive, like the enemy Alaska, like the Rune. The Alaska is just not very good at dealing with high explosive spam. For a start, any fires set on the Alaska, unlike on regular cruisers like the Rune over there, fires set on battle cruisers last a full 60 seconds. Sometimes, if you're in a cruiser like the Alaska, and I don't recommend you try this unless you know exactly what you're doing, it can be better to actually expose enough broadside to tempt the enemy into switching to armor piercing in the hopes of scoring a citadel, because you can tank the armor piercing. You can't tank the high explosive. You also can't tank the semi-armor piercing that the Brindisi is firing. So while that Alaska is turning... Oh dear, that was a critical error of judgment. He was lucky not to die instantly there, to the armor piercing that the game is rigged had loaded. Well, the Brindisi got him anyway, and the Fletcher has also managed to sink the Yugamo. Now the tables haven't quite exactly turned. They're still 100 points behind and they don't have any of the caps. And the Rune, of course, was never going to pass up the opportunity to finish off the game is rigged. So that's brought his particular rampage to an end. And that's really bad news for the surviving Brindisi and Fletcher on the team, because the Rune has gone undetected, he's right at the other end of the map, and they still don't have any of the caps, and they're 200 points behind. Just over 3.5 minutes. Well, they can at least do something about the cap circles, so they're flipping Bravo. The Fletcher's going to hang around until the cap has actually flipped. The Brindisi is advising him, okay, now go for Charlie. And the Fletcher's going to do that. The Brindisi's going to power on through the middle of the map here, through that channel in between those two islands, and he's going to, if not flip Alpha, at least contest it, prevent that Rune from gaining any further points. But he's going to have to get a move on, because that Rune is now up to 914, 917 points. All the Brindisi and the Fletcher are really doing here is buying some time for the Brindisi to find and sink the Rune. The Rune, with that kind of points lead, and this much time remaining, basically just has to survive. Although if he can kill the Brindisi, that's a guaranteed win when he's on this many points. And he's coming back to kill the Brindisi. Now this is a more sure way of winning. Get a cruiser kill when you're on this many points, you've won the game. But it's an awful lot riskier than simply running for the map border, hiding behind any one of the multitude of islands over there, and just waiting for the timer to run down. Yes, the Rune is trying to win harder than he needs to, but he may still do it. The Brindisi gets some semi-armor piercing away, ducks in behind the island. The odds are very definitely against the Rune here. He's on very, very low health. But if the Rune has anticipated getting a Brindisi broadside to shoot at and has loaded armor piercing, and he has, that would put him at over 1,000 points and the Rune would win. Unless, of course, the Brindisi got him too, in which case there are now no ships left alive on the enemy team. That's a hell of a risky way to win a match. And the Rune could have avoided it if he'd just chosen not to try to win any harder than he already was. So, well done, Game is Rigged. And also, of course, shout out to the Brindisi and the Fletcher, who also had outstanding games, and without whom that would have been a loss. And it very nearly was, despite that. That's it for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.